Now, let's talk about another poet who was very famous, well known in his age and even after his age, Thomas Carlyle. His friend Sir John Suckling and Richard Lovelace are poets of lighter vein. Carlyle's "He that loves a rosy cheek," and Suckling's "Why so pale and wan found love," and Lovelace's "The Althea from Prison" show their skill in verse composition. Andrew Marvell's works exhibit many of the characteristics of the Cavalier school. After the Restoration period, he changed his poetic note and wrote satire on Charles II. Of the Caroline poets, the most widely known poet was George Herbert. His lyrics are known as the Temple. Henry Vaughan is deeper in thought and a mystic poet. Francis Quarles, the religious emblems had engravings and it had long enduring popularity. Now let's talk about Cowley and other metaphysical poets. Abraham Cowley was considered the greatest of English poets. The name metaphysical was coined by Johnson. The metaphysical poets were men of learning. They neither copied nature nor life. Their thoughts are new. Their work is full of affectations, conceits, far-fetched similes, etc., etc. Johnson says that metaphysical poetry is a voluntary deviation from nature in pursuit of something new, in pursuit of something strange. Thomas Traherne was recognized as one of the greatest religious and metaphysical poets of the 17th century. His prose work, Centuries of Meditations, has profound thoughts and spiritual feelings. The Caroline writers in prose literature of Milton Age, Jeremy Tyler's Holy Living and Holy Dying, and Richard Baxter's The Saints' Everlasting Rest are important works during this period. Thomas Fuller wrote Worthies of England. Isaac Walton, The Contemplative Man's Recreation, is an instruction for fishermen in a gossipy style. Edward Hyde, Earl of Clarendon, wrote History of the Great Rebellion. Thomas Hobbes wrote Leviathan, the very famous work, a treaty of that age. Now let's talk about the neoclassical period of English literature, which began in 1660 and ended almost around 1785. It was much influenced by contemporary French literature, which was in the midst of its greatest age. Neoclassicism is a term for movements in the arts that draw inspiration from classical art and classical culture of ancient Greece and ancient Rome. The height of neoclassicism coincided with the 18th century Enlightenment era and continued into the early 19th century. The names given to this period are confusing. Restoration, 18th century literature, neoclassical literature, Augustan age, so many names of the same literary period. Chronologically, the period covers from 1660 to around, we can expand it to 1800. The literature of this time is known for its use of philosophy, its use of reason, skepticism, ample use of wit, refinement. The neoclassical period also marks the first great age of English literary criticism. Much like the English literary renaissance, the neoclassical period can be divided into three subsets. The Restoration, which began in with the restoration of Charles II to the throne in 1660, the Augustan age, and the Age of Sensibility. So we can say that Restoration age began in 1660 and ended in 1700. It is marked by the restoration of the monarchy and the triumph of reason and tolerance over religious fanaticism, over political passion. The name Restoration comes from the crowning of Charles II, which marks the restoration of the traditional English monarchical form of government, following a short period of rule by a handful of republican governments. Commonwealth period, Puritan age. During this age, there were, a handful of republican governments. There were religious purity. The Restoration refers to the restoration of monarchy, when Charles II was restored to the throne of England following an 11-year Commonwealth period, during which the country was governed by Parliament under the direction of the Puritans. Puritans were like modern day Talibans. They were religious people. They did not like literature, they did not like music, they did not like anything else. They did not like dance and other things. The Restoration produced an abundance of prose and poetry and the distinctive comedy of manners known as Restoration comedy. It was during Restoration that John Milton published Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained, and even his last swan song, Samson Agonistes. Other major writers of the era include John Dryden, John Wilmot, second Earl of Rochester, and John Locke.